Good morning, everybody. It is 8:20 on 10/2. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Dominic Cicerano. I'm here in Bedford Springs. Morning after their wedding. So it's a little bit later than normal, but we're getting it in. So this is DR 45, The Power of Self-Control. And I'm reading the book Relentless, From Good to Great to Unstoppable. In the beginning of this chapter, so if you're a highly competitive, if you're a driven, motivated person, I know personally for me, and in the book it mentions this idea of the power of, it says the power of home. For me, literally, it is home. But if you think of home as kind of a safety place, a place to go, you're working, you're training, you're going out, you're grinding, and then having that safety place to go home to. And it mentions a lot of times that why professional athletes will go out and they'll go crush the world, and then they'll always find a place to come back to because it's a perfect time to tune out and to turn off. For me personally, go out to these fights in different cities, be in the limelight, et cetera, and then there's nothing more that I love to follow that up with just going home and relaxing. So in your lives, find a spot to go, find a place to turn off, find a place to relax. And then the first thing that I want to read here, and it's talking about cleaners. And again, this book defines a cleaner as the best of the best, the top echelon of performers, people who go out there who dominate on a basis after basis after basis. And a wrestling fan of mine mentioned that I keep using basketball references in this book. No offense, but that's who the author identifies in the book. But let's throw some out there. Cael Sanderson, Dan Gable, Jordan Burroughs. How about those kind of guys for some ideas of cleaners, guys who get it done all the time? And something I want to read is, and this is talking about cleaners, the best of the best. They make no distinction between different parts of their lives. The way they work is the way they live. Intense, competitive, driven. That might be one of the most applicable things that I've read in this book, is that fact. So cleaners, the best of the best, make no distinction between different parts of their lives. How they work is how they train, is how they study, is how they be a father, is how they be an employee, etc. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And that quote originally came from Custom Auto, talking about Mike Tyson. He said, be careful how you fight your fights, for they will determine how you live your life. And that mentality, setting for yourself, understanding that wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. If you start to cut corners, and this is why I'm so disciplined in my own life, and to a point of almost obsessive, if you start to cut corners in what you eat, you're on a diet, you start to cut corners with what you eat, you're going to cut corners on the people that you hang out with. And then you're going to cut corners on what time to show up to work. And then you're going to cut corners on how often you shave. Don't judge me on that one. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So set that standard of excellence. Shoot for that standard of excellence. If you fall short of it, so what? You're still doing better than 99.9% of the people out there. And the real gist of this video is the power of self-control. Now, there's a book that I reference all the time, and I would recommend that everyone out there who is not just a leader, but who's interested in taking control of their lives, maybe pursuing something or upping their game. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. And Extreme Ownership talks about accountability, extreme ownership, owning your actions. Something so simple in your life as, for example, I think I used this last week. My wife asked me to do something for her. I did it. I went the extra mile, but I did it incorrectly. I got the wrong thing, and she was upset and said, not upset, but she said, oh, well, you forgot this. The first thing I wanted to say was, but didn't you see everything else I did? But then I thought, no, extreme ownership, own it. So all of those little things you do, don't make excuses. I would say to you this, there's one more thing I want to get to in the chapter, but I would say to you this. I did an event at Penn State Harrisburg with the student athletes, and one of the sessions, it was a weekly sessions, and after one of the sessions, I left them with a challenge. Don't blame, don't complain, and don't make excuses. So I challenge you, when you go out today, don't blame, don't complain, and don't make excuses. I can't say that word this morning. Don't blame, complain, or make excuses. Challenge yourself to do that. Be aware of it right now, watching this video. I'm not going to blame. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to make excuses, and see how stinking hard that is to do. So to touch on the power of self-control, but in this book, sorry for that tangent, in this book with Jocko Willink, he talks about discipline equals freedom. He says discipline equals freedom. And I look at that as the fact that if you can create discipline in your life, what time you get up in the morning. I don't love to get up early, but I get up because I know that's creating discipline. The way you eat, the things you put into your body. You don't have to be a professional athlete and maintain a professional athlete diet, but have discipline. Allow yourself soda one day a week, or allow yourself sweets one day a week. Create that discipline in your life. And the more that you create discipline, the more self-control you're going to have, which then is prepping you for anything that comes your way. Any sacrifice, any challenge, any hardship, any obstacle that comes your way, by that discipline, by that power of self-control, those things are going to be much more easier to overcome. And he touches on that with cleaners right here. He says cleaners, and again, the best of the best. Cleaners never perform under the influence of anything. They place too much value on their mental state to allow anything to affect their minds and instincts and reflexes. Who's in charge? You or your dark side? And he refers to the dark side as that competitive edge, that killer instinct. And he's saying the best of the best don't depend on outside factors. They don't depend on a particular pair of socks. They don't depend on a particular pair of or a particular warm-up song, or a particular, any external variable that could change that is non-controllable. Cleaners eliminate from their lives. So as you go today, remember, don't blame, don't complain, don't make excuses. And I would love to hear the outcome of that, because it's terribly hard. And identify, maintain the importance of the power of self-control. And you develop that self-control by self-enforcing or creating an accountability partner to create discipline in your life. What time you get up, what words you use, what you listen to, the food you eat. All of these ideas are an example of discipline, and how that can and will directly lead to self-control, which will take you to new levels. So thanks for watching. This is DR45, the power of self-control. I'll be back tomorrow with DR46, whatever that will be titled. And the last couple videos I've made have really been gaining traction. And to me, that's extremely important, because to set a metric, I want to reach 1 million people. I want these videos a starting point. My goal is 1,000 views, and that only happens with your continued support. I'll keep the content coming. Every share, every comment, every post, every ounce of interaction is greatly appreciated. So know that from the bottom of my heart, I greatly appreciate it. Sporting the Rocky shirt today. Have a kick butt day. As always, Carpe Diem. Check myself, my podcast out at charlie-brenneman.com. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a kick butt day.